What's up, coding heroes? In today's video, you will learn how to build a modern-looking drop-down accordion using only CSS. Yes, you heard it right. You don't need any JavaScript to make this interactive. You often see accordions like this being used for FAQ sections or product details in an e-commerce shop. It makes your site less cluttered and more user-friendly. Who doesn't want that? So, wonder how it's done? Then stay tuned and don't forget to like and subscribe. We start by writing our HTML. First, we create a div with the class of dropdown container. This will be our main container where we can add multiple dropdown elements. Inside, we create a div with the class of dropdown box. Inside there, add an input with the class of dropdown input, ID of dropdown1, and type equals checkbox. Right next to it, add a label with the for tag set to dropdown1. The for tag has to match the ID of the corresponding input element. A click on the label now counts as a click on the input field. Pretty neat, right? Inside the label, add a div with the class of dropdown header. Then, add a paragraph tag inside with the header text. In our case, that's if you click this. Next to the label closing tag, add a div with the class of dropdown content. Add a paragraph tag inside. It will hold the text of our accordion body. In our case, then this happens. Cool, right? And that's our first dropdown element. Then we copy the whole dropdown box so we have two different ones. Don't forget to change the ID and the for tag to dropdown2. Also, we're changing the header text too. You can also click here. And the body text too, and then this text box will open. Not bad, right? Obviously, choose whatever text you want. Now let's jump over to our CSS, shall we? First, let's style our dropdown container class. We give it a blue border of 2 pixels solid with color code 62AEFF. Also give it slightly rounded borders with a border radius of 10 pixels. Display as grid and set a gap of 1 pixel. This shows a little gap between each dropdown box. Set overflow to hidden to prevent any inside elements to show outside the container. Give it a width of 80% and max width of 400 pixels. Play around with these numbers as you like. Next, we select the dropdown box class. Display everything inside as grid and set overflow hidden to prevent any elements inside from displaying outside of each box. Time to hide our ugly input field. Set the width and height to 0 and set display to none. Now we cannot see the input field, but we can still check and uncheck it by clicking on the corresponding label. Now to the header. For the class dropdown header, set a blue background with hashtag 62AEFF, a text color of white with hashtag FFF. Give it a padding of 10 pixels and position it relative. This is important for our next step, because now we will create a little arrow. This part is really cool, so follow carefully. First, we create a before pseudo element for our dropdown header class. We set the content to an empty string because we don't want any text inside. Then we position it absolute to the dropdown header. Remember, we set that to position relative. We give it a width of 12 pixels and a height of 12 pixels, and a white background with hashtag FFF. Now we have a white square. We move it to the right of the header with the right set to 15 pixels and position it in the middle with top 50%. Now comes the fun part. We cut out an arrow shape with the clip path property. Use the polygon function to set 6 points that will cut out our arrow. The first number is always the x coordinate starting from the left, the second the y coordinate starting from the top. The first point is at 0, 25%, meaning it's completely left and 25% down from the top. The second point is at 50%, 50%, meaning it's 50% to the right and 50% down from the top. Continue with the next points. 100%, 25%, 100%, 50%, 50%, 75%, and 0%, 50%. Now we have effectively cut out an arrow shape of our white square. You can also use a tool such as Clippy to get the form you want. The link is in the description below. Then we set the transform property to translate -50% to align the arrow in the center of the header. And we set the rotate function to 0. We will later rotate this arrow once we open the accordion. Also set the transform origin to center. This means that the arrow will rotate around its own center and not around any of its corners. Lastly, add a transition of 0.5 seconds with ease in out. Next, we want to show that we can click on our header. So we select the dropdown header class, get a hover state and set a cursor to pointer. Then we get to style the accordion inner text. Select the dropdown content class. Set the padding to 0 pixel top and bottom and 10 pixel left and right. Set the height to 0 pixels so the box disappears completely. Now we move the text out of sight by pushing it to the top. We do this by using transform with translate y set to -100%. Set the z-index to -5 to hide the text behind the dropdown header. Lastly, we set transition to 0.8 seconds, ease in out, so we get a smooth animation later. Now comes the fun part. Now we're making all this interactive. First, we want to rotate the arrow to the top when input is checked, meaning we have opened the accordion. Select the class dropdown input, get the checked state. Get the label next to it and select the class of dropdown header with its pseudo element. Here we want to set the transform property to translate y -50%, this does not change, as well as rotate 180 degrees, this does change. This will rotate the arrow from bottom to the top. Looks good, let's move on. Lastly, we want to display the dropdown content. We select the class of dropdown input with the checked state. Then we select the dropdown content class next to the label. Here we set the transform property to translate y 0%. This will move the text from the top back inside the content div. Also, we set a padding of 10 pixels to each side and set the height to auto so it adjusts to the height of the inner text. Et voila! We have our modern and interactive accordion. It works like a charm. Play around with the colors, padding and width to adjust the look of your accordion. And that's how you build a stylish looking accordion without using any JavaScript. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more web development tutorials in the future. Thanks for watching, see you next time.